Hi guys, Miss Labodine here with another reading of Wonder. This is my third video, so I've read up to page 24. So make sure you have watched the other two videos before this one, so you are following along with the book. Today I'll be reading a few more chapters of Wonder, so sit down, grab a snack, relax, and enjoy. I will just briefly update you on the other two videos, do a quick recap just in case you watched it a few days ago and forgot. So basically, Augie did agree to go to school, to public school, and he went to meet the principal, Mr. Tushman, and his mom didn't tell him, but he was actually going on a tour as well and meeting 3 other students. She said it was a white lie, but he felt really blindsided and nervous. Right now, the kids seem nice to him, but we don't know really how they're going to act yet. But that's where we start with this chapter. So this chapter is called The Grand Tour. And so he's just starting to meet the 3 students. I think they were named Julian, Jackwell, and Charlotte. So we will see more into that. Okay, so this is called The Grand Tour, and it is on page 24. Jackwell, Julian, Charlotte, and I went down a big hallway to some wide stairs. No one said a word as we walked up to the 3rd floor. When we got up the stairs, we went down a little hallway full of lots of doors. Julian opened the door marked 301. "This is our homeroom," he said, standing in front of the half-opened door. "We have Miss Petosa. They say she's okay, at least for homeroom. I heard she's really strict if you get her for math, though." "That's not true," said Charlotte. "My sister had her last year, and she's totally nice." "Not what I heard," answered Julian, "but whatever." He closed the door and continued walking down the hallway. "This is a science lab," he said when he got to the next door. And just like he did 2 seconds ago, he stood in front of the door, half opened, and started talking. He didn't really look at me once he started talking, which was okay because I wasn't looking at him either. "You won't know who you have for science until the first day of school. But you want to get Mr. Haller. He used to be in the lower school. He would play his giant tuba in class." "It was a baritone horn," said Charlotte. "It was a tuba," answered Julian, closing the door. "Dude, let him go inside and check it out," Jackwell told him, pushing past Julian and opening the door. "Go inside if you want," Julian said. It was the first time he looked at me. I shrugged and walked over to the door. Julian moved out of the way quickly, like he might be afraid that I'd accidentally touched him as I passed him. "Nothing much to see," Julian said, walking in after me. He started pointing to a bunch of stuff around the room. "That's the incubator. The big black thing is a chalkboard. These are desks. These are chairs. And those are Bunsen burners. This is a gross science poster. This is chalk. This is the eraser." "I'm sure he knows what an eraser is," Charlotte said, sounding a little like Via. "How would I know what he knows?" Julian answered. "Mr. Tushman said he's never been to school before." "You know what an eraser is?" Charlotte asked me, right? I admit I was feeling so nervous I didn't know what to say or do except look at the floor. "Hey, can you talk?" asked Jackwell. "Yeah," I nodded. I still hadn't really looked at any of them yet. Not directly. "You know what an eraser is?" asked Jackwell. "Of course," I mumbled. "I told you there was nothing to see in here," said Julian, shrugging. "I have a question," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What exactly is homeroom? Is that like a subject?" "No, that's just your group," explained Charlotte, ignoring Julian's smirk. "It's like where you go where you go when you get to school in the morning and your homeroom teacher takes attendance and stuff like that. In a way, it's like your main class, even though it's not really class. I mean, it's a class, but I think he gets it, Charlotte," says Jackwell. "Do you get it?" Charlotte asked me. "Yeah," I nodded. "Okay, let's get out of here," said Jackwell, walking away. "Wait, Jack, we're supposed to be answering questions," said Charlotte. Jackwell rolled his eyes a little as he turned around. "Do you have any more questions?" he asked. No," I answered. "Oh, well, yes, actually. Is your name Jack or Jackwell?" "Jack is my first name, Will is my last name." "Oh, because Mr. Tushman introduced you as Jackwell, so I thought," "Ha, you thought my name was Jackwell." laughed Julian. You thought his name was Jackal, laughed Julian. Yeah, some people call me by my first name and my last name, Jack said, shrugging. I don't know why. Anyway, can we go now? Let's go to the performance space, said Charlotte, leading the way to the science room. It's very cool. You'll like it, August. So that was that chapter. And I said, my question was, how do you think the students are treating August or Augie so far? Do you think they're being nice to him? Do you think they're being polite of his situation? What do you think so far? And maybe you can make a little prediction. Which student do you think is being the nicest? Which student do you think maybe isn't being super nice? What are your thoughts? You can comment down below or just think to yourself. The next chapter is called The Performance Space, and it is on page 27. Charlotte basically didn't stop talking as we head down the second floor. She was describing the play they had put on last year, which was Oliver. She played Oliver, even though she's a girl. As she said this, she pushed open the double doors to a huge auditorium. At the end of the room was a stage. Charlotte was skipping toward the stage. Julian ran after her and then turned about halfway down the aisle. Come on, he said loudly, waving for me to follow him, which I did. There were like hundreds of people in the audience that night, said Charlotte, and it took a second to realize she was still talking about Oliver. I was so nervous. I had so many lines, and I had all these songs to sing. It was so hard. Although she was talking to me, she really didn't look at me much. On opening night, my parents were all the way in the back of the auditorium, like where Jack is right now. But when the lights are off, you can't really see that far back. So I was like, where are my parents? Where are my parents? And Mr. R, our theater director, he said, Charlotte, stop being such a diva. And I was like, okay. And then I spotted my parents and I was totally fine. I didn't forget a single line. While she was talking, I noticed Julian staring at me out of the corner of his eye. This is something I see people do a lot with me. They think I don't know that they're staring, but I could tell that from the way their heads are tilted. I turned around to see where Jack had gone to. He had stayed in the back of the auditorium like he was bored. We put on a play every year, said Charlotte. I don't think he's going to want to be in the school play, Charlotte, said Julian sarcastically. You can be in the play without actually being in the play, Charlotte answered, looking at me. You can do lighting, you can paint the backdrops. Oh yeah, whoop-de-doo, said Julian, twirling his finger in the air. But you don't have to take the theater arts elective if you don't want to, Charlotte said, shrugging. There's dance or chorus or band. There's leadership. Only dorks take leadership, Julian interrupted. Julian, you're being so obnoxious, said Charlotte, which made Julian laugh. I'm taking the science elective, I said. Cool, said Charlotte. Julian looked directly at me. The science elective is supposedly the hardest elective of all, he said. No offense, but if you've never ever been in a school before, why do you think you're suddenly going to be smart enough to take the science elective? I mean, have you ever studied science before? Like real science, not the kind you do in kits. Yeah, I nodded. He was homeschooled, Julian, said Charlotte. So teachers came to his house? Asked Julian, looking puzzled. No, his mother taught him, answered Charlotte. Is she a teacher? Julian asked. Is your mother a teacher? Charlotte asked me. No, I said. So she's not a real teacher, said Julian, as if that proved his point. That's what I mean. How could someone who's not a real teacher actually teach science? I'm sure you'll do fine, said Charlotte, looking at me. Let's go to the library now, Jack called out, sounding really bored. Why is your hair so long? Julian said to me. He sounded like he was annoyed. I didn't know what to say, so I just shrugged. Can I ask you a question, he said. I shrugged again. Didn't he just ask me a question? What's the deal with your face? I mean, were you in a fire or something? Julian, that's so rude, said Charlotte. I'm not being rude, said Julian. I'm just asking a question. Mr. Tushman said we can ask questions if we wanted to. Not rude questions like that, said Charlotte. Besides, he was born like that. That's what Mr. Tushman said. You just weren't listening. I was so listening, said Julian. I just thought maybe he was in a fire too. Geez, Julian, said Jack, just shut up. You shut up, Julian yelled. "Come on, August," said Jack. "Let's go to the library already." I walked toward Jack and followed him out of the auditorium. He held the double doors for me, and as I passed by, he looked me right in the face, kind of daring me to look back at him, which I did. Then I actually smiled. I don't know. Sometimes when I have the feeling like I want to cry, I can turn it into almost a laughing feeling. And that must have been the feeling I was having then, because I smiled, almost like I was going to giggle. The thing is, because of the way my face is, people who don't know me very well don't always get that I'm smiling. My mouth doesn't go up at the corners the way other people's mouths do. It just goes straight across my face. But somehow, Jack Will got that I smiled at him, and he smiled back. "Julian's a jerk," he whispered before Julian and Charlotte reached us. "But dude, you're gonna have to talk." He said this seriously, like he was trying to help me. I nodded as Julian and Charlotte caught up to us. We were all quiet for a second, all of us just kind of nodding, looking at the floor. Then I looked up at Julian. "The word is supposedly, by the way." "What are you talking about?" "You said supposedly before," I said. "I did not." "Yeah, you did," Charlotte nodded. "You said that science elective was supposedly really hard. I heard you." "I absolutely did not," he insisted. "Whatever," said Jack. "Let's just go." "Yeah, let's just go," agreed Charlotte, following Jack down the stairs to the next floor. I started to follow her, but Julian cut right in front of me, which actually made me stumble backwards. "Oops, sorry for that," said Julian, but I could tell from the way he looked at me that he wasn't really sorry at all. Okay, so that was a pretty good chapter. So what do you think of the character Julian? Do you think he's a good guy? Do you think he is nice to Augie? Do you think he isn't? And why do you think Mr. Tushman picked Julian to be one of the students to help show Augie around? What are your thoughts? You can comment down below, or you can just think to yourself. The next chapter is called The Deal, and it starts on page 31. Mom and Mr. Tushman were talking when we got back to the office. Mrs. Garcia was the first to see us come back, and she started smiling, her shiny smile, as we walked in. "So, August, what do you think? Did you like what you saw?" she asked. "Yeah," I nodded, looking over at Mom. Jack, Julian, and Charlotte were standing by the door, not sure where to go or if they were still needed. I wondered what else they've been told about me before they met me. "Did you see the baby chick?" Mom asked me. As I shook my head, Julian said, "Are you talking about the baby chicks in science? They got donated to a farm at the end of the school year." "Oh," said Mom, disappointed. "But they hatch new ones every year in science," Julian added, "so August will be able to see them in the spring." "Oh, good," said Mom, eyeing me. "They're so cute, August. I wish she wouldn't talk to me like I was a baby in front of other people." "So, August," said Mr. Tushman, "did these guys show you around, or do you want to see more? I realized I forgot to ask them to show you the gym." "We did anyway, Mr. Tushman," said Julian. "Excellent," said Mr. Tushman. "And I told him about the school play and some of the electives," said Charlotte. "Oh no," she said suddenly, "we forgot to show him the art room." "That's okay," said Mr. Tushman. "But we can show him it now," Charlotte offered. "Don't we have to pick Via up soon?" I said to Mom. That was our signal for telling Mom if I really wanted to leave. "Oh, you're right," said Mom, getting up. I could tell she was pretending to check the time on her watch. "I'm sorry, everybody. I lost track of time. We have to go pick up my daughter at her new school. She's taking an unofficial tour today." This part wasn't a lie, that Via was checking out the new school today. The part that was a lie was that we were picking her up at school, which we weren't. She was coming home with Dad later. "Where does she go to school?" asked Mr. Tushman, getting up. "She's starting Faulkner High School this fall." "Wow, that's not an easy school to get into." "Good for her." "Thank you," said Mom, nodding. "It'll be a bit of a shelp, though. The A train down to 86, then the crosstown bus all the way to the east side. Takes an hour that way, but it's just a 15-minute drive. It'll be worth it. I know a couple kids who got into Faulkner and love it," said Mr. Tushman. "We should really go, Mom," I said, tugging her pocketbook. We said goodbye quickly after that. I think Mr. Tushman was a little surprised that we were leaving so suddenly, and I wondered if he would blame Jack and Charlotte, even though I know it was really Julian who made me feel kind of bad. Everyone was really nice. I made sure to tell Mr. Tushman before we left. I look forward to having you as a student, said Mr. Tushman, patting my back. Bye, I said to Jack and Charlotte and Julian, but I didn't look at them or look up at all until I left the building. Okay. So that was that chapter. Don't really have any questions from that chapter. I guess you can ask yourself, why did Augie want to leave so soon, and kind of lied about having to pick Via up? Do you think it was just too much for him all at once? What are your thoughts? And I will read one more chapter, which is called Home, and it is on page 33. As soon as we had walked at least half a block from the school, Mom said, "So how'd it go? Did you like it?" "Not yet, Mom. When we get home," I said. The moment we got inside the house, I ran to my room and threw myself on my bed. I could tell Mom didn't know what was up, but I guess I really didn't either. I felt very sad and a tiny bit happy at the exact same time. Kind of like that laughing, crying feeling all over again. My dog Daisy followed me into my room, jumped up on the bed, and started licking me all over my face. "Who's a good girlie?" I said in my dad voice. "Who's a good girlie?" "Is everything okay, sweetness?" Mom said. She wanted to sit down beside me, but Daisy was hogging my bed. "Excuse me, Daisy." She sat down, nudging Daisy over. "Were those kids not nice to you, Augie?" "Oh no," I said, only half lying. "They were okay." "But were they nice?" "Mr. Tushman went out of his way to tell me how sweet these kids are." "Uh-huh," I nodded, but I kept looking at Daisy, kissing her on the nose and rubbing her ears until the back leg did that little flea scratch shake. "That boy Julian seemed especially nice," Mom said. "Oh no, he was the least nice. I liked Jack though. He was nice. I thought his name was Jack Will, but it's just Jack. Wait, maybe I'm getting them confused. Which one was the one with the dark hair that was brushed forward?" "Julian." "And he wasn't nice?" "No, not nice." "Oh." She thought about it for a second. "Okay, so is he the kind of kid who's one way in front of grown-ups and another in front of kids?" "Yeah, I guess so." "Ugh, hate those," she answered, nodding. "He was like, 'So August, what's the deal with your face?' I said, looking at Daisy the whole time. "Were you in a fire or something?" Mom didn't say anything. When I looked up at her, I could tell she was completely shocked. "He didn't say it in a mean way," I said quickly. "He was just asking." Mom nodded. "But I really liked Jack," I thought. "He was like, 'Shut up, Julian,' and Charlotte was like, 'You're so rude, Julian.'" Mom nodded again. She pressed her fingers to her forehead like she was pushing against a headache. "I'm so sorry, Augie," she said quietly. Her cheeks were bright red. "No, it's okay, Mom, really. You don't have to go to school if you don't want to, sweetie." "I want to," I said. "Augie, really, Mom, I want to." And I wasn't lying. Okay, so that is that chapter. So my question from that chapter is, why does Augie still want to go to school, even though he was treated, I guess you could say, kind of poorly from Julian? Why does he still want to go to school knowing that that probably might happen again? And why does he like Jack Will so much? And he didn't seem to say much about Charlotte. What was it about Jack Will that he liked so much? So that was it for this reading. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I really love this book. I've read it already before, but even reading it a second time, I love it even more. I'm noticing even more details, and that's what happens when you read books more than once, and this one's a really great one. And someone wants to say hello. This is Winnie, and she wants to say hello, and she wants to say thank you for watching the video and reading along with us. She is 10.5 weeks today. I got her 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, and she is 10.5 weeks, and she's only 4.5 pounds. She got weighed at the vet yesterday, so she's very small, and she likes to listen to her mom read. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and healthy. See you next time.